In the beginning of this reading, Athenlight and Pella have Owen and Owen's mom over for dinner.
That's like the most awkward
And it's
scene.
really weird because Athenlight's in love with Owen, and Owen kind of
Owen's
maybe likes
mom has a
Athenlight,
thing for Athenlight.
yeah, but Owen's mom has a thing for Athenlight, so everything's also
And
just screwed
Pella's
up.
like, Pella being
Can I get
stupid.
my summary done? Because we let you go through
Casey,
yours
stop
because I watched
pissing.
it. I watched it, and you got to go through yours. So
Fine.
piss off.
That's nice.
Thank you, that's lovely of you.
So then Schwartzy shows up at the dinner because he wanted to see Pella, and now everyone's there, and it's kind of awkward. And then everyone kind of leaves, but then Owen kisses Athenlight at the end, and it's kind of adorable.
Wait, Owen kissed Athenlight? I thought Athenlight kissed
No,
Owen kissed
Athenlight.
Athenlight.
Okay.
It was super
It was adorable.
strange.
And David keeps calling because he just kind of found out that he just realized that Pella ran off, kind of to be with the younger man, like his fears. And so then after that, we get more about Henry being bad at baseball. Like he can't do it. Like he's fine during practices, but he can't perform well in an actual game. He does pretty bad at it. Then we find out later that Athenlight and Owen spend, every afternoon together in Athenlight's office, and there's a little bit of sexy times going on there.
Sexy times. Really?
And they're both kind of
filming this?
really insecure about it, mostly Athenlight though.
Athenlight's such a loser. I don't like him.
I
He's
like
tragic.
him.
He's a tragic loser.
Yeah, kind of. Keep going.
I like that. Owen is showed back up for baseball stuff, but isn't actually playing yet. But
His brain is damaged.
Yeah.
Continuing.
some great scenes there in the locker room. It's hilarious.
Do you miss seeing me naked, Owen?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not into fat guys.
It's not
Awesome.
fat.
And so then we get more about Henry being bad at baseball.
And then Henry has a panic attack.
And Athenlight gets really insecure, more so than usual. Henry's completely out of money, and
No, Schwartzy's out of money.
Schwartzy's out of money, and Coach keeps trying to give him
Gives him like $1,000
money
bucks.
because he's apparently rich. And then this is when Schwartz and Pella are. Then afterwards they go back to Schwartzy's place, and then Schwartzy's all concerned about Henry and doesn't want to have sex, and then Pella takes that to mean
he wants to have sex.
well, he just can't. But it's kind of an emotion. It's like an emotional and mental block, like
Yeah,
a
exactly.
subconscious one. So he kind of doesn't. And so
I understand that.
Pella kind of ends up breaking up with him because he's concerned about a friend, and she's kind of a wench.
Is that actually in your summary? That's like a point in your summary.
Yeah, because she's a wench. And so then Pella goes on like this crazy bitch rant about how much she dislikes Henry in her head, and like how Henry needs like help, and it's
Henry's a grown man.
it's kind of douchey on her part.
I mean, he does need help.
But it's not her place to try to fix everything. And I've noticed she's like really immature, and like because
Well, yeah,
she keeps trying to, like, she was thrust into the world of adulthood and keeps trying to pretend to be an adult.
Yeah, it's 'cause
and she does what she thinks an adult should do, which actually makes her really childish.
Because she ran off
in her
with a guy
behavior.
in high school, and
Yeah.
so she didn't really get to go to college.
She didn't really get to
pretty
grow
much
up.
learn to become independent.
And be an adult, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Pella, like, breaks her finger slapping a tree.
Which
Oh, yeah.
is like venting her anger at the fact that poor Schwartz couldn't have a range.
She's
Yeah.
she's so
She's a wench.
irritating.
And so then Owen doesn't show up for their afternoon meeting. And
They're tete-a-tete.
well, then they just do stuff, and it's there was a time in there when Affin's going through. Oh yeah, it's the night after Affin. Owen goes through, I think, Athenlight's yearbooks from when he was in college, which was a long time ago.
And sees how hot Athenlight used to be.
Yeah, and also Owen gets a new mug, which is really concerning for everyone.
For Athenlight.
Yeah,
And for Haydn.
and for me. Have seriously none of you guys seen the movie Harold and Maude?
No.
No.
No, what is wrong with you?
I saw the movie The Avengers.
So good.
No, but Harold. Oh, you wouldn't be as weirded out by this book if you saw Harold and Maude, which is an amazing movie, and not in a I'm a creepy fangirl way, like a cult classic. Awesome.
Okay,
movie.
can I make a point about the creepiness factor to you? If Owen was a girl, would that be creepy?
Probably. Yeah.
Well, so how is it different just because he's a
I
guy?
actually made a point in there and was like, I don't know why it's different, but it is. And also, actually, I don't know that it still wouldn't be as weirded out by it as you guys would be. You guys are really weirded out by it, and I'm just slightly weirded out by it, but not really. Harold and Maude.
okay.
I'm less weirded out by it now that I realize that Owen is the one with the power in the relationship.
Yeah. And
But
there
it's
is
still worse.
stuff in there where, like,
No, except Athenlight still kind of thinks of Owen, like, as a girl.
No, he totally does.
Like, just kind of like as a masculine girl.
no, he does. It's
Instead
like
of just a
he said, it's
feminine
like
guy.
kissing a girl.
well, he only has a little bit of reference to go off of this, and you know he knows that it's different, so he's trying to figure out, like, he's comparing it, and I don't necessarily think that means he thinks of Owen like a girl. I just think that means that's the only thing he knows how to, like, that's the only thing he has to compare it to.
Fair enough.
If you say so.
I do say so.
Okay.
That was like sassy in a grace way. Like you don't even notice that it's sassy, and then you realize it is.
Alright. Okay, so,
You should scoot back. You're like in
yeah,
the middle
you're
of the
totally in the middle of the circle. Stop hissing.
circle. You
Well, that was a deserved hiss.
no,
Not
it wasn't.
really.
There's only one person who's allowed
Marissa,
to
you could-
hiss,
you
and
could
you are
move
not
up.
that person.
Who was allowed
You're
to
kind of out of the
Margaret
circle.
Stronsky is allowed to hiss because she can't.
Who's Margaret Stronsky?
She's my best friend.
Does she live in Colorado?
She does live in Colorado, but she might move to London, and that would be really upsetting. I don't want her to move to London. Actually, I do, and then I want to go live in her closet, and we can go David Tennant stalking together, and it
Oh
would be
my
awesome.
god.
Are you implying you wouldn't go with us?
Well, don't talk to me. Okay, does anyone have any quotes? Interesting ones?
Yes.
Okay.
I got
Let me
some
find some.
quotes.
Let me find them.
I have a quote about Affenfield,
Affenlight.
And light.
whatever his name is. The old dude. No, Affenlight. Maybe he should have been flattered by Owen's oohing and awing, but instead he felt left out of whatever emotional transaction was passing between Owen and the young man on the page.
Oh, poor Affenlight.
Yeah, well,
No,
poor past his prime Affenlight.
I just feel bad for him.
He's apparently quite a stunner before.
Apparently he's still quite a stoner for someone
For
his age.
60, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Are they?
yeah, Owen is definitely like, toying with him.
A little bit. And then there's that line in there where he says he needed Owen, but Owen, being himself whole or never further from
Whole than a nicely rolled joint.
would never need him.
Yeah, do you think
Poor Affenlight.
Owen is like in love with Affenlight, or do you
Not
think
at
he
all.
just finds him like, oh, this could be an interesting thing to do, and it's kind of like a
I think-
distraction almost?
I think it's kind of that, like, I think he doesn't really think about it the same way that Affenlight does, because it's kind of become the center of Affenlight's world, and I think to Owen it's just, oh, it's sort of that thing that I do. I mean, you know, and I also do homework sometimes, and it's about that level for him. Like, it doesn't, I don't think he thinks about it the same way Affenlight does.
Well, and I think he also just thinks it's kind of fun, and he likes the excitement of dating the school president, and he likes the attention he's getting, but he doesn't have an emotional attachment to Affenlight.
Or
And
at least if he does, it's not.
it's
in
nothing
the
like
same way.
Affenlight's, yeah.
Yeah.
Affenlight has this intensive, like Owen is all he thinks about. And Owen probably thinks about Affenlight like once a week.
Yeah, or like
Well,
whenever he goes
more
over
than
there.
that.
I think
Yeah.
it's
He
just
Except
goes
for-
over there quite a lot.
I think it's a little bit of a one-sided relationship.
Owen likes the sex.
Yeah. Though I don't even think he's getting good sex out of this.
No, I think he's just exploring. It's like, oh, interesting.
just messing around.
Yeah, and because Owen is interesting. Like at the beginning, you see Owen as kind of like he's obviously self-assured. You see that from the very beginning, but he doesn't seem like necessarily bold because he seems like kind of studious and scholarly. And then there's the baseball team thing. That's when you first see this hint of like.
I get the bold.
Come what
I got
may.
the bold before, but yeah.
And then you also, bold, but not necessarily like rebellious.
Yeah,
and then
he's the school president now.
and then he goes and then he
He's
goes
40
and
years older than
screws
me.
the school president every afternoon. It's crazy. I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think about Henry? Like,
He's really irritating me now. He's probably my least favorite character in this.
I just feel so bad for him.
I don't really feel bad for him.
That's nice of you.
I investigated the wrong thing.
I think he's just all this, like, fame and everything is kind of putting pressure on him, so now he's not doing as well as he used to. And he's probably getting tired, too.
Do you think it's the fame that's messing him up, or do you think it's just like
What?
the
What did you say?
I have to take my feet off the bottom of the screen. Even though it's fun to play with.
or do you think it's kind of like the one? Do you think it's the fame that's messing him up, or do you think it's the previous errors that are just building on each other?
The previous errors.
I don't necessarily think it's the fame because he doesn't really think about it. I think that probably plays a small role into it, but I think it was inevitable, and now he's just screwing up a lot. I don't know why he's doing it. It just bothers me that he is.
Maybe
It
it's
just bothers you
everyone's
that he's taking up room in the
expectations,
story.
I know. That's really it. He's taking up room in the story, and every time I get to a chapter about him, I just get annoyed and kind of skim more than
It
read.
makes me anxious when I read about it. And like,
Yeah, because I mean, like, during practice, he's fine, he's great, and, like, even during games when he gets, like, a hard hit ball or, like,
He's okay.
something difficult to field,
It's
he
the
fields it
things-
perfectly. It's just, like, the simple ones where he has
the
time to
things
think
that
about
he's,
it.
yeah, exactly. It's the things that if he messed it up, it would be weird. It's these basic plays that he should never mess up that he messes up.
So he
I was kind of
messes
filming the bottom of your face, but that's okay.
Cute. I also like. I guess I feel like I don't necessarily feel bad for Henry, but I sort of. At least I don't know why he's screwing up, and I don't really get that. But I get where he's coming from on the anxiety front because that does suck. Having a panic attack sucks, and so
Have
I
you had
get.
a panic attack before?
Yeah. Or at least an anxiety attack, if not a panic attack. A panic attack is a little
What's the
more extreme.
difference?
A panic attack is like the way Henry walked around with his hands on his head like that. I never did that. I had like freak out, go in my room sort of thing. And I had anxiety attacks. I would shake and everything, but it wasn't like the way Henry's literally blocking out noise.
Yeah.
But that is, I mean, that's an awful, awful feeling. There's not a lot to do about it besides just wait for it to pass. So I feel bad for him because of that. I think to have to be a baseball player and have this role of like strong and then to just watch him.
I kind of blocked that part out of the book out.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was this chapter or this reading, but he threw up before a game.
He throws up like all the time. I'm like, what? Stop hurling. I don't want to read about it.
Do you have a problem
weird how
with
much-
Casey?
It's gross.
I'm sure you enjoyed that scene in Stand By Me.
Which one?
The one where it's the kid, the fat kid who got made fun of all the time. No, but then he did the pie eating contest and threw up so that everyone else would throw up and everyone. That was really gross. That was really gross. But the fat kid.
My personal favorite is the cheaper by the dozen one.
Oh, that's so gross.
You know what's actually the worst? By far the worst. The one in Monty Python, Meaning of Life, I believe it
I haven't
is.
seen that one.
Oh, it's so bad.
I love how he's like, what the hell is happening to my house? I just wiped vomit with my son's back. Cheaper by the dozen. It's just so
Okay,
nasty.
let's talk about the book again. So, Marissa, did you have a quote?
Yeah. For my job, I wrote one down. Schwartz could feel what was happening, or one thing that was happening. He was distancing himself from Henry, and he was using Pella to do so. Do you guys think that's actually what was happening?
I think Schwartz is working through some stuff with Henry, definitely.
Well, I think also, Schwartz, I think he just expects too much of himself. He could have gotten into law school
But he
easily
chose to apply
if he,
only to top
if
tier
he
law
had,
schools.
taken, a safety school or applied to a less competitive school. But he's no, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Princeton.
Cambridge. Honestly, are you ridiculous?
So I think Schwartz just kind of was expecting too much of himself, and he thought he could do all this stuff, and now that he realized that, like, he's only human and he can only do so much, he's kind of almost, like, withdrawing from everything that he was doing before.
Yeah. He's losing perspective.
Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily blame him for just applying to good schools because.
But he should have applied to something else too.
But if he didn't want to go to one of those other schools, like, yeah, he could have applied to some like bad law school. But if he doesn't want to go there, then he shouldn't go there. And if he can wait another year and apply to those schools again once he's studied more and done better, then why should he lower himself to going to one of those bad schools?
Okay. A, there's a big difference between bad
And not well known. Yeah, but there's a mental association between those, and he wants what he feels is the best. And so I don't I mean, it's not just though about the quality of the education, but there's a difference if you say I went to, Harvard Law to, some smaller college. It's not just people associate those with good.
Yeah, no, I know.
And so it becomes it becomes better, and so I don't necessarily think it's bad that he wants to go to one.
I don't either, but if what he really wanted was to go to law school that year, he should have applied to a safety, and if he doesn't mind waiting, then he should have known that sometimes you're not going to get in. I thought the fact that he was so devastated about it and is just giving up on it, when you apply to law schools that are that hard, you got to expect that it's going to be hard to get in.
I don't think he's giving up on anything. I don't get that impression at all.
No?
Yeah, I don't think he's giving up.
Also, like, just about Pella and her role in his life.
God, she's annoying.
She is kind of annoying.
I do agree, though, that she does, like, have an idea of how an adult should act, and she's trying to act that way, but she's failing.
Well, in her attempting to act like what she thinks an adult should be, kind of betrays her, like, her complete lack of knowledge about it, because it's just wrong. I don't like her.
I actually have a quote about her. This is after she gets her paycheck from the kitchen.
Oh yeah, that's her first paycheck.
Her first direct contribution to trash collection and public schooling, the maintenance of highways and libraries, the killing of people in war. And I think it's like the fact that she's 25 and has never had a paycheck.
23.
Whatever. Still, I thought that was a big deal, and I think it's interesting that I also thought it was interesting separately that the author has trash collection, public schooling, libraries, highways, all things that are totally vanilla and bland, and then ends the line with the killing of people in war. I thought that was interesting. It's true. We don't get a choice about where our taxes go.
No, and we shouldn't get a choice about where our taxes go.
You should move your foot.
Yeah, because that's why I'm moving, because I do not like feed.
You don't think we should have a choice about where our tax money goes?
No, because there has definitely been a correlation between wealth and Republican views, and I don't want all the people with the money paying for all the Republican ideas and their things, because then we won't have any social services, and we'll spend the rest of our lives, at war, devoting all of our money to the military.
Well, no, that was my comment, is that we shouldn't have to pay for a war we don't agree with.
Well, no, but see, the thing is, I don't think we should get that choice. I don't think if we're going to be a part of a society, we have to be a part of all of that society, and we shouldn't get to say, well, yeah, I'm going to give money to this, but not to this and this because I don't like it. I think you give your money to the government, and they divide it up how they're going to, and if you want to change how they do that,
you have
to get involved in the government.
Yeah, and Casey, also, it would be nice if you could say, I want all my money to go to social services, and I don't want any of my money to go to the military, except if you are allowed to say that, then there are also people who are allowed to say, I don't want any of my money to be going to social services, and I want it all to go to the military.
Yeah. No, that's perfectly fair. And I think you're right that it's a fact of, living in a society is that, you know, you make your contribution to that society. I just think it's interesting that, like, Pela is just waking up into that. She's becoming, like, this is the first time she's ever done that. It's the first time she's ever contributed to her society monetarily. And, like, she's sort of just realizing, like you said, like, she has this idea of adulthood, and now she's just realizing this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
She irritates me.
Kind of was.
She's a little irritating.
So,
She's a little irritating.
why do you think it's different that Owen is a boy and not a girl in the relationship? Because I keep finding quotes and stuff that, like, are showing that it is, and, like, where Avonlight said, Avonlight would have been worried about the politics, the ethics, the power relations of the situation, if it were a girl, and there's also, like, just there's stuff like that, and it's different because Owen's a boy, but why?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Wait,
Well, I think it might just be Affenlight is, I mean, he grew up in, like, probably, I mean, how old is he? 60? So he grew up in, like, the 60s and 70s, and so he probably has a little bit more traditional idea and, like, does believe the, like, older male teacher dating a younger female student is creepy, except the idea of, like, an older male teacher dating a younger male student, because he has no experience with homosexual relationships, he doesn't really find it as odd because he doesn't know anything else with that idea.
Is your question, how come you think that Owen is the male in the relationship?
No, it's... Well, first I disagree with the idea that there's a male in the relationship. My question is, why, like, when you think of, like, a student-teacher relationship, like, normally if it's like, you know, if it's like a 20-year-old girl and a 60-year-old dude, it's really creepy to think about it. But since Owen's a dude, you think about it differently. And even before you guys asked me, it was like, well, what if Owen was a girl? Would it be different? And I said, yes, and I can't really place my finger on why. And they keep talking about here and how it would be different if Owen were a girl.
And it definitely,
why?
it is different.
I mean, it is, but why?
Because our society is screwed up.
Yeah, well, there's that. But there's also, I think you mentioned that Affenlight has no experience with this, and I think that has something to do with it. I think a lot of why a male teacher and a younger woman can be weird is that you feel like that man is in a position to take advantage of that young woman, and Affenlight is not in a position to do that, really.
But no, but it's not even just specific to the book, though. But like,
That is a good point, though.
but I mean, are you saying that young men can't be taken advantage of?
No, they
no,
can.
just
they can. But
in our society, and also like in our society, we tend to think of like females are more easily taken advantage of, and males are. It's much easier for them to take advantage, and so like even if it was two guys, like not Affenlight and Owen, we might not think of it in the same way that we would think of like an older guy and a younger girl, because we associate guys as like the macho guy and they can't be taken advantage of, even if that's not necessarily true.
Right, which is, there's actually, I mean, if you look at the statistics for statutory rape, gay relationships with young gay boys and older gay men, they're really high.
What if they're not even young gay boys, they're just young boys that are taken advantage of?
Oh, exactly. And I think, like, they can be taken advantage of as the younger party in the relationship. In this specific instance, Owen isn't, because Owen is the one with the power. But I think our society thinks of boys as being powerful even if they're not, and so we don't associate them with being forced or coerced into something even if they are.
But I mean, Owen's not.
But Owen's not, exactly. Because Owen is the one with...
So like, it's funny because Owen even says in there, he's all like, yeah, like, are you okay with this? I don't want like, I don't want to force you.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
almost like Athenlight is the one who's being pushed into this.
Why do
Even though
you
it
think
was
Owen
Athenlight
has
who really
the?
started the feelings?
Yes,
I think it's because Athenlight wouldn't do anything about this if Owen didn't. Like, I think Athenlight, if Owen hadn't kissed him or made any, like, advances, Athenlight would have sat there quietly and kind of,
Dreamed.
yeah, idealized this relationship in his own head.
And also, there is, I think a lot of it has to do too with self-awareness and self-confidence. Owen is incredibly comfortable with who he is, and Athenlight at this point is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that? Do you think that Owen was, even if it was unconsciously, taking advantage of Athenlight? I'm asking just because I don't necessarily believe he is.
I think that there might be a little bit of, this teacher or this president of the school is kind of in love with me. Oh, that means I can, like, explore this area. And, like, I think he's kind of using that to get the experience, which, I don't know. I don't necessarily think he's doing it consciously, but what's weird is we don't really get an insight into Owen's mind at all in this.
Yeah,
Like,
we actually have not gotten an insight
we've
into
gotten
Owen's mind.
Pella's, Athenlight's, Henry's, Mike's, like, everyone but Owen,
Why do you think that is? Like,
because they
why
offer
did the
each
author?
us.
But do you think it maybe it's to more show like how uncertain Athenlight is about his relationship with Owen? Because even we as the readers don't get to see
And we don't really
Owen's
know.
perspective, and we don't know what Owen is thinking and how he views this relationship. So
Well, and we don't know how Owen views a lot of things. This relationship is just one of them. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of dynamics going on at Westish College right now that we know everybody else's opinions on them, and we don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Which, do you think that makes Owen... Do you think at this point Henry or Owen is the focus of the book?
well, I think Henry is, like, the choices that Henry makes kind of affect everyone else, because Schwartz is affected by Henry's, like, I mean, his failures, basically, and Pella is then, like,
Affected by
indirectly
Schwartz's
because Schwartz,
emotions about them.
and also, like, I mean, Henry hit Owen, so, and that kind of
that.
sparked his relationship with Athenlight. And also, probably Athenlight is affected a little bit by Pella's relationship with Schwartz.
Yeah.
So, I think Henry kind of, like, I mean, even though he doesn't necessarily want to be the focus, considering, like, how he's doing, and I mean, like, he has panic attacks and whatever, but I think Henry is kind of at the focus of this book.
I don't think there's really one person who this book is about. I think it's just more showing the relationships between each character as it goes on. Because all of the characters are now really, like, connected to each other.
Yeah, and now David's here. What do you guys think about David?
He's annoying.
I hate that he calls her Bella.
Oh, that really bothered
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I was like, Jude, do you not know her name? Is this like, you don't
It's
like
supposed to
her
be like
name?
a pun, like, Bella is so Bella. I'm like, you asshole. Call her her name. How condescending is that to call her Bella?
I mean, I don't think it's, like, you know, more condescending than any other pet name in
From a
relationship.
30-year-old man to a 23-year-old man.
Well,
In
he's
any
like 35
relationship,
now.
you can kind of consider them to be condescending, and I don't necessarily think it's condescending the way it is. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it just bothers me that
He does
he
that?
won't call her by her name. And, like, he hasn't called her by her name once in this. And I don't necessarily think it's, like, a pun, like, you know, he calls her that sometimes, but also he calls her name. I think he only calls her that.
Yeah, which is annoying. And it's almost like he almost has more of a right to do it when she is likes him and is happy married to him. She wants to separate from him, and he still calls her that.
he doesn't really know that. She just ran off. And also, when was she happy married to him? She, like, in the beginning, but then she really wasn't. She didn't really have a happy marriage to him.
Well, but
and
he was
also,
convinced she was.
I don't even know that he was. No, I don't think he was convinced that, because he knew that, like, she was taking all his medications and having all those issues. So I don't even think he thought that she was, like, happy or anything. She was just there, and then now all of a sudden she left, and he's going to figure out what happened, like, and maybe try to get her back. But yeah, it bothered me that he doesn't call her her name.
Marissa, what do you think? Because Hayden and Casey are kind of doing all the talking, like usual.
You talk sometimes too, so.
I talk sometimes. Marissa never talks. Marissa, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't really. I think it's a messed up relationship.
Like, do you think David has any influence over Pella's relationship with Schwartz? Like, even though he wasn't necessarily there.
I mean, I guess maybe a little, because, I mean, Pella was married to him, and so she has him in her mind, and it never goes away. I mean, once you have a relationship, you don't really forget about the person, so.
I think she wants to forget.
Yeah. Well, I think that may have been the purpose Schwartz is serving.
I think so too, and I think she might like him a little bit, but she also likes.
She likes sex.
She likes the idea that
She likes-
she's breaking her relationship with David by being with him.
Yeah, and like she likes being with someone her own age, mostly just because I think it's partly because it's like David was always worried about her running off with someone her own age, and so she's using this in her mind to feel like she's finished the relationship instead of actually talking with him and telling him that it's over and like getting a divorce, which I think is just indicative of how childish she is.
I think they both just like the idea of being together at the time, and so that's why they went and got married. But as time went on,
Oh, David and Pella.
Yeah.
yeah,
She liked the idea of running off with,
Probably-
this architect, and he liked the idea of having like,
A young, beautiful wife.
yeah.
Well, also the thing was
something
like,
different.
I feel like she was always in constant competition with her peers because she was like a brilliant student, but I mean she was at an elite private school, so probably they all were.
She's
And
also a really impressive athlete. They probably
yeah,
all are.
so I feel like she had to have one thing. Like, I mean, she had gotten into Yale, but once she got into Yale, it was kind of like, okay, now what do I do for the rest of my senior year? And I feel like she felt like she had to have that one thing where she could one up her peers and
Like,
like.
look, I skipped college. I
Had to
have a fancy
outdo
husband.
Yeah. I have a question. Which relationship do you think is creepier? David Pella, because she ran off with him in high school, or Owen Affenlight?
David Pella.
Well, I mean, David Pella is like such a smaller age difference, but I feel like it is because I mean, also like Owen Affenlight, you don't really think of it as a typical student-teacher relationship because Owen initiated it, and probably because they're both guys, that probably does affect us in some way.
He's
but
not
like,
married to him. He's not.
Yeah.
He didn't run off. He didn't break all his relationships. To
again,
be
I
with
mean,
him.
like he's
Do you
still
know the
going
age
to Tokyo.
between Pella and David.
Yeah, he's like,
It's like 11, 12. No, it's
No,
like it's more
she
than
was
that.
18. He was 30.
Oh,
so like
12.
12 years.
Yeah.
then yeah, definitely.
David Tennant and his wife are farther separated than that.
I
Oh
kinda
God,
think that-
David. Now I'm gonna
Wait,
think
David
of him as
Tennant's
David
wife is
Tennant.
more than 12 years younger than he is.
15.
Oh, see, look. Oh my God,
David-
that's such
David
a societal
Tennant's-
thing. I assume she's the younger one. He could have been 15 years younger than her.
Oh, but then you get you know what? It's weird. The one of the relationships that always creeps people out the most and creeps me out the most is that one kid from that Angus
Oh yeah.
songs
And that's Snogging movie.
snogging movie that we always watch in PE, because the main dude in that movie
I'm
is
in
married to
freshman
someone like 15 years older than him, and it creeps me out, and they have like kids together, and it really weirds me out.
Well, I
More
think
so than like, oh, the David Tennant and his wife. Like, I don't even think about that as odd.
Even
Well,
though
I
it's
think-
the same age difference.
I think maybe one of the things that plays into it, I mean, this probably doesn't really affect anymore, but like men might live for like a shorter period of time, but they can have children for longer. So
Up through.
like
They
there
fit.
are like 60-year-old guys that are having kids, but there are no 60-year-old women who are having kids.
There's a few
So
of them now, but that's when you start to
well,
see
then
the
then they
issues,
all
yeah.
like have
It's
issues.
not good.
Like I
Frozen
think
eggs.
isn't it like 1 in every 5 kids born to a woman over 40 has Down syndrome or something?
I think something like that. Yeah, it's ridiculously high. I mean,
Unless it's, yeah, the risks are way high. I mean, they're getting better because of like.
Oh my god,
fertility
the battery is
treatments, but-
running out again. I think there's something wrong with this camera.
yeah.
I mean, it's been on straight for like
I
half
think
an hour.
another thing we should think
Yeah,
about
35
is,
minutes.
The like maturity levels play into this because we always kind of think about them like I think it's less weird, particularly us as females, because women are often more mature than guys, and so I don't think that a woman going with an older man is as weird because they are similar in maturity levels, and so that so they're actually more equal than like a guy
Than a
with an older
cougar
woman
and a-
that she's like way more mature than he would be at that age anyways, and so then like it just all of a sudden seems like way bigger.
Like an enormous disparity. Yes.
What?
What are you
saying
confused about?
Maturity, you gotta take maturity into it because since women are more mature than men, then it's less weird for a woman to be with an older man because they'll be like about the same maturity level, so it's less of a difference versus the other way when it's like even more of a difference.
See, yes, I also think part of what plays into it, whether or not we admit that, is that traditionally the woman is the younger one in the relationship. Traditionally, girls
Like even
are
when
married to
we're
older
reading about like the people in India that have like the
12-year-old
12-year-old
daughter.
girls that like
Wait,
married
the
to like the 25-year-old guy and had his children like when he was
13.
13.
Yeah, I looked at that like first thing. What 25